From the Blues Hotel Collective, welcome to Blues Moments in Time, where every groove holds a memory and every moment echoes the truth of what came before. Today, we rewind the reel, trace the footsteps, and revisit the chapters that shaped the blues. Here is our host, Kelvin Huggins.
Welcome to Blues Moments in Time, the podcast dedicated to exploring the rich history and the cultural significance of blues music. Today we focus on the events of February 22. Let's start with the cultural landscape. Now, picture the American airwaves. In the dead of winter in 1956, the music industry was deeply segregated, neatly divided into pop and what was still dismissively referred to as race records. But on February 22, 1956, a fissure cracked wide open across the cultural landscape of the United States. On this day, a song titled Heartbreak Hotel by a young Memphis truck driver named Elvis Presley debuted on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 68. Now, why does this matter to the blues? Heartbreak Hotel, beneath its polished studio sheen, is built entirely on a slow, brooding 8-bar blues progression. It was dripping with the vocal stylings Elvis had absorbed from Beale Street bluesmen and the rhythm and blues records of Arthur Big Boy Crudup. Now, culturally, February 22nd marks the exact moment the aesthetic of the blues bypassed the gatekeepers and flooded mainstream middle-class white America. It was a moment of profound cultural appropriation. Yes, but it was also a Trojan horse. By taking the blues mainstream, it inadvertently laid the groundwork for the great blues revival of the 1960s. A few years after this record hit the charts, teenagers in London and Chicago would begin tracing the roots of this sound, bypassing the limitators to find the originators, rediscovering Muddy Waters, Son House, and Howlin Wolf. Now let's turn our attention to the political climate. The blues has always been more than just a 12-bar musical form. It is a profound documentary of the black experience in America, serving as a vital tool for political resistance. We jump forward in time to February 22, 2019. On this day, Texas blues rocker Gary Clark Jr. released his searing, Grammy-winning third studio album, This Land. The late 2010s were a period of intense, bubbling political and racial tension in the United States. Gary Clark Jr., a fiercely successful artist, bought a 50-acre ranch in rural Texas. One day, a neighbour approached his property, refused to believe that a black man could own such an estate, and demanded to see Clark's papers. The sheer anger and disbelief of that moment fueled the album's title track. On This Land, Clark channels the ancestral rage of the blues through a heavily distorted fuzz pedal, taking Woody Guthrie's optimistic folk anthem, This Land Is Your Land, and turning it into a battle cry of unapologetic black ownership and survival. Releasing this album on February 22, Clark proved that the blues is not a museum piece. It remains a living, breathing, and deeply political weapon capable of holding a mirror up to America's face. Of course, no discussion of blues history would be complete without exploring the music. To understand the musical evolution of the blues, we have to travel back to the Prohibition era. The date is February 22nd, 1929. The city, Chicago, Illinois. Inside the Brunswick Labels recording studio, a fiery trumpet player named Jabo Smith gathered his rhythm aces to cut a track called Sleepy Time Blues. During the Great Migration, thousands of African Americans left the oppressive conditions of the rural South, bringing the acoustic rough-hewn sounds of the Delta up Highway 61 to the industrial north. In Chicago, this country blues slammed headfirst into the sophisticated, syncopated rhythm of urban jazz. Jabo Smith was widely considered the only musician who could rival Louis Armstrong on the horn, and Sleepy Time Blues is a perfect sonic snapshot of that era. It captures the exact moment the blues dressed up in a Sharp City suit. The recording sessions of February 22nd, 1929 reminds us that the blues has never been static. It's a musical sponge, absorbing the speed of the city, the flair of jazz, and setting the stage for the electrified jump blues that would soon follow. Now let's talk about some beginnings of life for some of the greatest blues artists. The soil of Mississippi and Louisiana seems to possess a magic that grows musical giants, and February 22nd was the day the world welcomed two very different but equally vital rhythm and blues legends. First, in 1928, in the small town of Ackerman, Mississippi, John Riley Brown was born. You would come to know him as Texas Johnny Brown. After moving to Houston in his youth, Brown developed a smooth, jazz-infected guitar style that became the signature of the Texas blues sound. He was a master of the slow burn, eventually writing the absolute masterpiece, Two Steps from the Blues, for Bobby Blue Bland. Just a few years later, on February 22nd, 1936, the flamboyant Ernest K Doe Jr. was born in New Orleans. Rebranding himself as Ernie K Doe, he became a towering figure in New Orleans rhythm and blues. K Doe took the standard blues progression and injected them with the irresistible rolling second-line rhythms of the French Quarter. If you've ever found yourself snapping your fingers to his 1961 smash hit, Mother-in-Law, you felt the joyous, infectious energy that K Doe brought to the rhythm and blues tradition. And sadly, February 22nd has also been a day of loss. The blues is, at its core, music about confronting loss. And on this day, the blues community has had to say a heavy farewell to a pair of legendary figures. February 22nd in 1994, we lost the great Papa John Creach. Born in Pennsylvania, Creach was a pioneer who proved the violin belonged in the blues just as much as the guitar. He spent decades grinding in the jazz and blues clubs of Chicago before his crying, heavily amplified violin sound caught the era of the 1960s counterculture by bringing the blues to bands like Jefferson Airplane and Hot Tuna. Papa John Creach ensured the genre reached an entirely new generation of rock fans. And very recently, on February 22, 2025, the blues world mourned the passing of Linsey Alexander, known to everyone on the Chicago club circuit as the Hoochie Man. Alexander was born in Mississippi, but built his legacy in the smoky late-night venues of the Windy City. He played with a raw, uncompromising grit that reminded us all of the Southside's golden age. Passing away at the age of 82, his absence leaves a massive void, but his records continue to teach young guitarists what the truth sounds like. And that's all the time that we have for today's episode of Blues Moments in Time. I'm Kelvin Huggins. Join us next time as we continue to explore the fascinating history of the blues.